what do investors want in return? This is a great question. We get this one all the time. So it really depends on the investor. So, and you can negotiate for whatever you want, and everybody has individual needs. Like, for example, or wants. So we have an investors network, and that's actually some of the info that you get if you join that, where you see their profiles, you see how much they want to invest and what they want for a return. So generally, you can find people that just want a vacation property where they can go with their family for a couple weeks out of the year kind of thing. So they could get into it just to have that option. Other people are like the equity, like building up the equity in the land. Other people want, cash flow. So they're looking for a portion of income generated, but that doesn't mean that you need to give that to them right away. You just, do a plan, and then it is what it is. But it's not really like a bank, and the reason we work with private investors and whatnot over banks is that a bank can come in and just take your stuff if you don't pay. Whereas with an investor, they actually own a portion of it. For example, if you take on an investment, what we always do is around 30%. So we keep 70% ownership and full control, and then the investor keeps 30, and that's what they get. That's what they invested for. They traded you the money for that 30%, and that's it. Anything on top of that is totally dependent on your negotiations with them. And then now we're actually signing deals to be able to buy our investor out. So what that does is essentially increases their, like, for example, if you bought property for 500,000 and then you built stuff on it and you improved it, and then that equity is now $1 million, that 30% would go from $150,000 worth of value at the beginning to being $300,000 worth of value by the end, by the time you've reached that $1 million worth of equity. So that's where they're making their money, and then, or their like value gain, I should say. And then we keep buyback rights because we'd love to be able to buy, potential partners out in the future. Just because we like to have that option. So then you can buy them out and then sign a deal, and then you just do a payment plan kind of thing. You could just do a payment plan like that. You could also remortgage and then pay them out in more of a lump sum. You could, like, none of that stuff has actually really ever been in a ton of my deals. Like, I've taken investment about 6 times, and I've never signed a document that actually says exactly how they're going to get paid back. That's more of like a profit sharing deal, which would actually kind of be a separate deal. Like, up front, they would trade X amount of dollars for X amount of equity, for example. And then after that, you could do some kind of profit sharing terms in that agreement, or a separate agreement that is kind of profit share terms, or a payback agreement, whatnot. But I've never done that because the whole point is that you're sharing in the risk. If you put you can reduce their risk, but they're still sharing in that with you. But it's a longer conversation. But generally, it just totally depends on the investor and what they want specifically. I know folks that will come in and put money in just because they think it's cool. Like, it's just like a cool wow factor, and they're like, this is sick, I just want to be involved, and they just like jump in and do it with you. So there's lots of different styles of folks out there. Just because it's a lot of money to you doesn't mean it's a lot of money to somebody else. So yeah, that we go through all the different kind of, I don't want to say stereotypes, but just like the general types of investors and investment options that you might go through, whether it's like a mom and pop, just kind of deal where it's just like a local small business owner or something like that, or right up to through like an angel investor or like an investment firm kind of deal. So all of those relationships are going to look pretty different in general. So we kind of go through the different things that you're most likely to kind of come across when you're going through that journey, and then how to set that up. But a lot of it is just conversation. So you're just going to pitch your project, and then you can just start talking with them, and those conversations are really easy. Like, every time I've ever done it, you just walk in and you just chill out and sit in a cafe or a restaurant somewhere, and you just have lunch. And a lot of the time with the people that I like to work with, at least, you're really just talking about personal stuff. Like, in our first meeting, we spent 40 minutes talking about personal things like mental health and our upbringing, and like, any kind of previous things that we've done career-wise or business or whatever, and just, children and family and all that kind of stuff. And then in the last like 15 minutes, they're just like, okay, what are we here for? Give us the pitch or whatever. And then we just talk a bit about the project, and then they ask, how much money do you want? And then there you go. That's always been what it is. They are human too. It's just like a fine conversation to have, and we give you an exact system and breakdown of how you can do that in just a really normal personal way. So it's not like you're in a boardroom with like presentations and stuff. No, all you're doing is just telling your story, and you're connecting human to human with that person, because you want to make sure that that person's aligned with you as well. So it's not a one-way thing, it's a very two-way street. So I hope that helps answer that question.